Darkness pressed against the chamber walls, thick and suffocating as though the entire palace itself was holding its breath. The alien princess Petra lay motionless on the carved stone bed, her pale skin shimmering faintly with the last traces of her fading light. Once her heart glowed like a living star beneath her chest. Now, it flickered, weaker and weaker, as if death had already begun to claim her. Around her stood the royal family, figures tall and graceful, their features sharp and otherworldly, their eyes filled with helpless terror. They were rulers, warriors, guardians of galaxies, yet in this moment they were powerless. Every attempt by their healers, every ritual, every vial of rare medicine had failed. Their heir, their beacon of hope, was slipping away. Then came him, a single human, Parker. He stood at the edge of the chamber, hesitant, uninvited, the outsider among beings who looked at him with suspicion and disdain. His uniform was stained from the long journey, his hands scarred from battles fought on Earth and beyond. He was no healer, no magician, no prince, just a soldier who should never have been here. And yet something, call it fate, call it desperation, drew his gaze to Petra. The glow from her chest dimmed further, sputtering like the last flame of a candle. A silence so deep fell across the room that even the beating hearts of her kin seemed to stop. Parker felt his chest tighten. Against his own reason, against the whispers of alien guards ready to strike him down if he moved closer. He stepped forward. Every eye followed him. One of Petra's sisters hissed, "Do not touch her, human. You will poison her further," but Parker didn't hear them. Or maybe he did and chose to ignore it. His steps were slow, heavy, echoing like drumbeats of destiny across the marble floor. He reached her side. Petra's lips were parted, her breath shallow. Her skin, cool to the touch, shimmered faintly beneath strands of golden hair. She looked almost angelic, yet more fragile than any human Parker had ever seen. His hand trembled. He hesitated. What could a human possibly do when alien science itself had failed? What madness told him to try? And yet, he lowered his hand. His palm pressed gently against her chest where the dying light flickered beneath her skin. At first, nothing. Only silence. Then, a spark. The glow beneath Petra's skin pulsed. Once, then again. Her body shuddered faintly, her lips parting in a gasp as light began to spread outward, brighter, warmer, alive. The chamber erupted with gasps. Her sisters stepped back, shielding their eyes as the light burned brighter. The king himself staggered forward, disbelief painted across his face. The impossible was happening. The alien princess was healing, under the touch of a human. And in that stunned silence, a voice, yours, the narrator's, cuts through with chilling weight. What happens when a single human hand defies death itself? The glow stabilized. Petra's chest rose and fell with a stronger breath. Her eyelids fluttered, and then her gaze found him. Her lips moved, forming words that should have been impossible. She whispered his name. Parker, though they had never met. The chamber's glow dimmed to a steady shimmer. Petra's breathing was weak, fragile, yet undeniably stronger than moments before. The family of the alien princess exchanged looks of disbelief, their sharp features reflecting both awe and suspicion. But Parker's mind was elsewhere. He couldn't shake the sound of her voice, his name, whispered from her lips, though she had never known him. Weeks earlier, Parker had stepped off the shuttle onto alien soil as part of a fragile peace mission. Humans and Petra's kind, the Lumerians, had been circling each other for years, allies in words but strangers in truth. Trust was thin, suspicion thick. Everywhere Parker went, eyes followed him. Elongated figures with flowing robes and guarded expressions whispered among themselves. They called him the Earthborn, sometimes with curiosity, more often with disdain. He was not meant to lead this mission, just a soldier escorting diplomats. But when tensions rose during their stay, he found himself caught in conversations, in observations, in silences that weighed more than battles. Then came the summons. The princess had fallen ill. A sudden collapse, her life force poisoned by an enemy unseen. The healers tried everything. Rituals under moonlight, crystals humming with energy, medicines brewed from the rarest roots of their world. Nothing worked. The glow in her chest, the source of her vitality, dimmed each day. Whispers spread across the palace. A curse. An assassination. A fate sealed, and somehow, Parker found himself in her chamber. Now, as he stood beside Petra, his hand still tingling from the impossible spark, realization began to dawn. Her glow had responded to him, not to science, not to ritual, not to the desperate pleas of her kin, but to him, a human. Her family's eyes narrowed with suspicion. Her eldest brother stepped forward, voice like steel. "Explain yourself, human. What trick have you played on her?" Parker's throat was dry. I don't know. I only touched her." Laughter, bitter and sharp, echoed from one of the counselors. "A lie. Humans bring death, not life." But Petra stirred, her voice faint, almost broken. "No, not death, warmth." Her family froze. Petra's words carried weight. Every syllable from her was treated as sacred. She turned her gaze toward Parker, her eyes glassy yet filled with something her kin had never seen before. Recognition. In the hours that followed, the healers observed what none could explain. Whenever Parker remained near Petra, her pulse, measured through the glow in her chest, stabilized. Her breath deepened, her skin warmed, but when he stepped away, the glow faltered again, dimming dangerously. It was as though some force bound them, invisible yet undeniable. His human essence was interacting with her life force, a phenomenon never recorded in Lumerian history. Some called it impossible, others blasphemy. The Royal Council erupted in arguments, voices clashing like blades. But Parker only looked at Petra, watching the way her trembling fingers calmed when he held her hand, and she watched him too, not as a stranger, not as an intruder, but as if he were the only light in a room of shadows. The distrust grew heavier. Guards shifted uneasily, torn between protecting their princess and eliminating what they feared might be her greatest threat. But Petra's whisper silenced them. "He stays." Her mother, the queen, stiffened. "Petra, he is human. You do not know his kind." Her voice was faint but unyielding. "I know his touch saved me." For the first time Parker saw it, the faintest smile ghosting across her lips, a warmth her family had never managed to give her. It was not just survival. It was connection. The chamber dimmed once more as the princess's body trembled, her glow flickering dangerously. Healers rushed forward, chanting, weaving light around her frail form, yet nothing worked. Her glow sank lower, until Parker moved closer. The moment his hand brushed hers, the light returned, pulsing in rhythm with his heartbeat. The family froze, their disbelief turning into dread. Her pulse, her very life itself, was tied to the presence of a human, and as the realization settled like a shadow over the room, one thought echoed in every mind. What did this bond mean? For her? For him? For the fate of both worlds? The chamber filled with uneasy silence, broken only by the steady glow pulsing faintly from Petra's chest. Every eye in the council hall turned toward Parker, their expressions carved from stone, suspicion heavy in the air. They gathered not to celebrate her survival, but to debate the meaning of what they had witnessed. One of the elders rose, his long robes brushing against the polished floor. His voice carried sharp authority. "Humans are dangerous. This bond is unnatural. What we have seen cannot be allowed to continue." Murmurs rippled across the chamber, voices overlapping, rising like the tide. Words such as infection, threat, and contamination laced their debate. Parker stood still at the center of it all, every instinct in his body screaming that he did not belong here. He was a soldier, not a savior, and certainly not someone meant to alter the course of an alien royal line. Before he could speak, Petra's voice cut through the noise, weak yet steady. She leaned forward, her hair falling like a golden curtain around her face, her glow dim but persistent. "Enough, he stays." The council fell silent. No one defied the council's judgment, not even the royal family themselves. But Petra was not speaking as a daughter, nor as a patient clinging to life. She was speaking as the princess, heir to her people's throne. Her mother, the queen, looked torn between duty and love. "Petra, you cannot place your life in the hands of an earthborn. He is not one of us." Petra's gaze never wavered, "and yet he is the only reason I still draw breath. Without him I fade." With him I endure. The words carried weight, sinking into the room like iron chains. The council exchanged dark glances. To them this was not hope, it was dependency. Parker's chest tightened. He felt the weight of 1,000 eyes pressing down on him, branding him as the outsider, the anomaly. His thoughts twisted in circles. Was he truly helping Petra, or was he being pulled into something larger, something far beyond him? Doubt gnawed at him. If his touch healed her, what did that make him? A miracle? Or a weapon? Was his very existence now a tool in the struggle of alien politics? Petra's hand trembled as it reached for his. When their fingers touched, the glow beneath her skin brightened as if her very heart recognized him. She closed her eyes for a moment, her voice a whisper meant for him alone. "You are my anchor in the storm." The words struck deeper than any blade. She wasn't speaking as a princess to her healer. She was speaking as a woman to the one keeping her tethered to life. Parker swallowed hard, torn between the warmth in her words and the suffocating suspicion of those around them. As the night deepened, whispers spread through the palace corridors. Not all welcomed the miracle. To some it was not salvation but blasphemy. The idea that their heir's life force was tied to a human was intolerable. Shadows moved in secret, plotting. In hushed corners, cloaked figures muttered about destiny being defiled, about a bond that would poison their bloodline. They spoke not of protection but of elimination. If Petra's survival depended on Parker, then there was only one solution in their eyes. Remove him. End the interference. And as Parker stood beside Petra's bed that night, her fingers clinging weakly to his hand, he could not shake the gnawing sensation that unseen eyes were watching him, waiting for their chance to strike. The bond that had saved her was now a curse upon him, and the longer he remained at her side, the more certain he became. Someone within these very walls was already planning his death. The night was still, heavy with a silence that did not feel natural. The palace walls glowed faintly under the light of twin moons, but in the shadows, darker movements stirred. Parker sat near Petra's bedside, her hand weakly clutching his, her glow steady only because of their connection. He should have felt calm. Instead, every instinct screamed that something was wrong. The door to the chamber whispered open. Figures cloaked in black slipped inside, silent as smoke. Their blades caught the moonlight, sharp and merciless. Parker's breath froze. These were not healers. They were assassins, conspirators come for him. The first lunged. Parker reacted on instinct, throwing himself aside, but the attacker's strike tore through the bedding where he had been seconds earlier. The room erupted in chaos. Guards posted outside were too far to stop the first blow, and the conspirators moved fast, desperate to end it before alarms could sound. Another blade swung for Parker's throat. He raised his arm, but he was unarmed, unprepared. Death was seconds away. Then a flash of golden light. Petra, weak and trembling, had risen from her bed. Her glow, faint moments ago, flared like fire as she threw herself between Parker and the blade. The impact rang out, sparks dancing where steel met the radiant energy around her body. She cried out, her knees buckling, but she did not fall. "Petra!" Parker caught her before she collapsed fully, holding her close. Her glow sputtered, flickering wildly as though her body was being drained by the effort to shield him. Her family burst into the chamber then, drawn by the noise, weapons drawn, robes flaring as they rushed in. The conspirators froze under the sudden fury of royal guards. But the damage was already done. Petra had burned through her fragile strength to protect a human. Her voice trembled, barely audible, as she pressed her forehead to Parker's chest. "Parker, your touch is more than healing, it's life itself." The words silenced the chamber. The queen gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. The king staggered as though struck. Her brothers and sisters stared, torn between disbelief and awe, because it was true. They saw it with their own eyes. Petra's glow blazed brighter the tighter she clung to Parker. The bond was undeniable. Her very life force pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat. The longer his hand held hers, the stronger she became. Her glow illuminated the entire room, casting away the shadows of the conspirators who had dared to harm her. One of the elders, voice trembling, whispered words not spoken aloud in generations. The prophecy, it begins. All eyes turned to him, his voice shook with reverence and fear. It was written, a child of stars and a child of earth will one day bind together, their touch fusing two fates. Through them the rift between worlds shall close and both species will be united. The council erupted. Some voices were filled with wonder, others with rage. To many, the prophecy was salvation. To others, it was a curse, a future that threatened the purity of their people. But Parker had no time for politics. His focus was on Petra, whose body trembled in his arms. Her glow, though blazing moments before, now flickered dangerously again like a flame starved of air. She looked up at him, eyes glassy with pain yet filled with unspoken trust. Her lips parted, struggling for words. "Don't leave me." And then her body gave way. The light dimmed, her chest rising and falling shallowly. The royal family cried out, rushing to surround them, but Parker's hands were the only thing keeping the last of her glow alive. Her life teetered between worlds, slipping through his fingers, and in that moment, Parker faced the choice that would define everything. He could step back, let the healers take her and hope their ancient ways saved her, or he could give everything, his strength, his essence, his very soul to keep her alive. The room seemed to fade around him. The council's arguments, the royal family's cries, the lingering shadows of conspirators, all of it drowned beneath the weight of one question. Would he risk himself completely to save her? Or let destiny take her away? The section ends in silence, her faint glow flickering against his trembling hands, the answer hanging heavy in the air. The chamber seemed frozen in time. Petra's body lay limp in Parker's arms, her glow barely a whisper against the shadows creeping around her. Every voice in the room clamored at once, the council demanding he step away, the royal family begging for answers, the guards pressing closer. But Parker heard none of it. In that instant there was only her, Petra, her lips pale, her breath shallow, her glow fading like the last star in a dying sky. And yet, her fingers still curled faintly against his hand, as if her very soul refused to let him go. Parker's heart hammered. Doubt clawed at him. He was just a soldier, a human far from home, never meant to stand here in the center of another world's fate. But as he looked at her face, fragile yet unyielding, he felt something rise inside him that silenced every fear. He would not let her die. He tore away every hesitation, every whisper of doubt, and made the choice that would bind his destiny forever. With trembling hands, he pressed his palm against the glowing heart at her chest and whispered into the silence, "You live, Petra. Even if it takes everything from me, you live." The effect was immediate. A surge of warmth spread from his touch, not just into her, but through the entire chamber. Light erupted beneath Petra's skin, brighter and brighter until her body glowed like a living star. The poison that had corrupted her life force writhed in resistance, dark veins crawling across her skin before being seared away by the brilliance. The glow expanded, flooding the chamber with golden fire, chasing every shadow from the walls. Gasps erupted from her family. Elders staggered back, shielding their eyes. Guards fell to their knees, unable to deny the miracle unfolding before them. A mere human had achieved what alien science, ritual, and prayer could not. When the brilliance finally softened, Petra stirred. Her eyelids fluttered open, her lips parting with a weak breath. She looked at Parker, her gaze clouded with exhaustion but burning with something deeper, recognition, acceptance, claim. Her voice, though faint, carried through the silent chamber. "Parker, you are mine now." The words cut deeper than any prophecy, echoing into every corner of the room. The queen's eyes widened, the king staggered with disbelief, and the council erupted in horrified whispers. The heir of their people had spoken, not of survival, not of gratitude, but of belonging, and she had claimed a human. Parker tightened his hold on her, his chest heaving with exhaustion, his hand still pressed over her glow that pulsed in rhythm with his heart. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. The bond was undeniable. But outside the brilliance of that moment, in the shadows beyond the chamber's light, other eyes watched. Figures cloaked in black, faces twisted with rage, whispered among themselves, "If the human lives, the balance of power will fall." Their words dripped with venom, a promise sharpened by hatred. They melted back into the darkness, their vow lingering in the air long after they vanished. The story ended with the chamber bathed in light, Petra's life clinging to Parker's touch, and the certainty that enemies waited in the dark, ready to strike again. And so, the question hung heavy for everyone who witnessed it. Was this the beginning of unity, or the spark of a war that would consume them all?